Welcome to Encounter 3, the Bestial Cliff. This is our first encounter to feature some elevation. It's got some really dynamic Z-axis action going on, and it should be a really fun adventure. All right, let's take a closer look at the Bestial Cliff. So this set features a whole bunch of our brand new Trifecta Terrain. Trifecta Terrain are these paired pieces, a wall and a floor, together to give you 3 ways to build, thus Trifecta Terrain. This is a swell wall, so it offsets things by 1 inch. You can use it freestanding, you can use it for underground rivers, you can just put it in the middle of your room, you can use it outside the room. Lots of options for this thing. This is the ledge piece. It's double-sided, so you get all sorts of organic options. As you see in the pit here, this can be used for negative space builds. That's your second way to build. The third way to build is you put the floor and the walls together, and then you can use it like any regular wall piece in line with the rest of your pieces. So we have the swell wall in here, which offsets things by 1 inch. We have this corner, which was sorely needed. And this thing has a beautiful vein of Dwarvenite in the back. We've got this really cool 90-degree turn piece here. So this one can be used for a convex curve coming into a room like it is here. Or, we cleverly designed the back of it, you can use a 1-inch floor piece, put it in the back, and you can make an outside standing wall corner. This is really good if you're doing passage builds. And we have these neat little ledge wedges. So this is used, if you want to taper off, if you're doing a negative space build and you want to taper it off, you use this. It's also really good if you want to combine these ledges with your Kickstarter 2 regular caverns wedges, which terminate down in points. You can use this to combine with that ledge set. Oh, and then finally, we have one of our cave cliff pieces. This is a 90-degree convex corner. And what's neat about this is it plays really nicely with our Trifecta 90-degree piece, right? So we designed them so they could sit together. So really, you can put the ledge on the bottom, you can flip it around either way, you can put it on the top. So it gives you a lot of different ways and a lot of different height options depending on how high you want to build. So what's awesome is the majority of our Trifecta pieces have a corresponding cave cliff. We also have this 2x1. It's double-sided. The dead side will be on the back. So you can do a lot of builds. The bottom is pretty square and flat, so if you want to put it in line and do something like if you had some elevation blocks from Kickstarter 2, you could do this for that thing in line, or you can have the top is more crumbly if you want to sort of soften out your edge. So next we have this pair of bank transition walls. So these are basically regular 2x2 walls, except the floor slopes down on each one down to ground level. So these are designed to work with the rest of our banks pieces, which will appear in later encounters, and I'll show you in a sec how those work. They also can play really nicely together. In this case, we're using them to change elevation as we're sloping down. It's a nice way if you just want to step up or down a little bit, you can use that. So you could put them on here and then use some of your Trifecta walls to do some sort of submerged area. It's a good way to get up and down to a terrain tray. And this thing, look at the beautiful little cascading pools on this. Really neat sculpts here. Beautiful little mushrooms in there. Lots of cool details. So what's also neat about these is they're designed to play really nicely with your Trifecta Terrain ledges, so you can do a cool ledge transition. So if you want to go from a wall to ledges, this can get you in and out of ledges. Oh, and here's one of our banks pieces, which you'll see in some later encounters. So these are designed to play really nice like this. If you want to do jagged edge going down to water, to quicksand, to the abyss, whatnot. This is the stepped elevation block. So this is similar to, here was our regular caverns elevation block. So this is a sister piece to that, but it's not quite as square. We have it dropping down. So it's a nice way if you want to go up and down to a bunch of those elevation blocks, change level, you can drop it in the middle of a room if you want. And this thing plays really nicely with our 2 rising walls. Look at the pair of these guys. These things are awesome. So these are designed, if you want to have your build go up, you can start with a regular wall there and then transition your way up to a higher level build. Makes a nice visual rise. You can also use these things just inline together, like such, to make like a raised area on one of your cavern walls. They're also really good if you want to frame a piece in between them, something we do that in Encounter 6 with the Forge. I can't wait to show you that thing. They also play really nicely together, like a passage going up. They sit so well with this stepped elevation block. There's a lot of complementary heights sculpted in here, so they flow really well together. And of course, these sculpts, like everything else in Caverns Deep, are wildly detailed. Beautiful trickling water, little stalagmite, lots of fun bits to discover on these things. All right, so the big centerpiece of this room is this negative space quicksand pit here. Janet actually photographed a whole bunch of cornbread mix and mud, and used that, I think, as the basis for our quicksand. If you want to use your terrain tray to do elevation, we're offering these new Caverns stilts. So these will have a magnet on the top, they'll have metal on the bottom. The idea is you'll be able to stick them to the bottom of your terrain trays and use these stilts to really quickly and easily make elevated areas. So now I could build out over here, I could extend this over here. And then you can change the height. Because they have magnets and metal on the bottom, we'll have a couple of different heights of these. We'll have a 12 millimeter and a 38 millimeter, so you can stack them. They'll stick to each other, and you can stack them higher and lower to very economically raise portions of your build. This is known as the passage intersection piece. Also, the top is removable. This is an arch topper. It's the same arch topper that we have on a variety of pieces. It'll give you some door functionality we'll talk about in a moment. This piece, the nickname of this piece is the pregnant passage because it looks like it has a baby bump. It is a sister piece to the widening passage that we saw in Encounter 2. They have opposite 45-degree angles, so you can use it to make a really cool 90-degree curve. Once again, as always, gorgeous sculpting here with these cascading pools, this cool little nook. It's a nice little place. You could put some sort of treasure. It's a good place to have an ambush. It's all sorts of shenanigans can happen in this passage. It plays really nicely with our 45-degree passage pieces. Boom, boom. You can go back to level, 90-degree turn. The idea of this piece is you can use it to get from a passage into rooms, or you can use it, a couple of them, to do some sort of passage intersection, as the name would imply. This passage intersection also has a wall insert slot right here, which is at a nice little off angle, so it's not completely square. It's going to have a pair of holes in the bottom and a pair of holes in the top. The holes on the top there'll be pegs in the factory finished arch topper, so they'll sit on there. And the holes at the bottom are for the hinges of any of our double door pieces. So you'll be able to place your double door pieces in here, let them hinge open. You can use any of your double doors from the Dungeon of Doom, plus all the new double doors pieces in here. So we also have this little guy, the Rising Stalagmite Cluster. So it's got a nice, pleasing. You can use this freestanding and just pop it anywhere in a room to create some cover for combatants, to create more dynamic movement in combat because they have to avoid it. It breaks line of sight. And finally, we have the piece de Pustelance, the Tainted Minotaur. Here, look at this bovine brute. This guy is awesome. On this side, he looks like a relatively regular, pretty angry Minotaur. On this side, his whole body has been corrupted and taken over by this evil Belsiabin fungus, this terrible mushrooms, these vile mushrooms that you'll see popping up all over the place and that are going to be a big narrative drive in Caverns Deep. As you can see, his flesh is rotting away, he's starting to sprout more fungus, there's goo hanging off him, his tongue's hanging out, he lost an eye. This guy's in bad shape, and he looks angry. The shtick of this room is the players are going to enter from here, and this guy's going to be kind of guarding the door, and there's of course conveniently a big pit of quicksand and he's super irate and ready to attack, so they might be able to trick him or lure him or force him into the pit, or they could just fight him outright on this terrible, dangerous cliff. So it should be a pretty fun, dynamic fight with a really cool looking villain. All right, so that was the Bestial Cliff. It's got terrain trays, elevation, that cool big passage intersection, and of course our wonderful infected Minotaur. Woo! Enjoy.